Hi everyone, it's Linda again, the carpenter from Roslyn, Ontario. And today I'm going to show you how to build one of these. This is a little bit more complicated than the one I showed the kids the other day, but it's complicated but easy enough. So what you need to do is you need a back and a front, and these are 45-degree angle cuts. And you can use, what you need to first do is find out the center of your board. If it's 5.5, then you just calculate your middle, and that's where you do your cuts. And if you want to make sure that your cut's proper, you can use one of these things and just measure from side to side, and that'll tell you if your cut is even, because that way your birdhouse will fit properly. And the hole, you probably make it about 7.5 inches up into the center of your board. And it's important to, like this is about 8.5 inches to 9 inches tall. You don't want to make your birdhouse too big or too small. If it's too big, the birds take up much too much energy trying to make the nest. And if it's too small, then you're limiting it to probably smaller birds like wrens. So about between 9 and 8.5 inches for the height of your birdhouse before the cut. And I usually do the hole around 7.5 inches from the bottom of your nesting box. And what I do too, you've got the side of your birdhouse here. When I cut the side, so this is probably about 6 inches, so I make it probably 5 3/4. And that way you've got that gap right up in here, and that allows for some air ventilation so it doesn't get too hot in the box. The other thing I do is on the inside of the hole, I take a Dremel bit and I just score it, make it rough it all up, because the pine's pretty smooth, and I just do it because I think it's easier for the little guys to get something, they can get their feet into that they can crawl out when it's time. So then I do two sides, and the other thing I do, I don't know if you can see this, I score the edge here so that I can get my fingers in and open the door once it's together. Now when you're doing the house roof, this is 1 by 6, and I just cut the length. This is 1 by 8, so what I do is I take the 1 by 8, which is just a little bit too long, and I turn this over so that I know where to cut the 1 by 8, so that when this is on the birdhouse, it's symmetrical, it's perfectly even. Now for the floor, what I do is I miter the edges, so if there is water that gets inside, it'll drain properly. So this is a finished birdhouse, and I use screws. And you can see the door opens, and I've got that lip there that I can get my fingers in. And you can see that it's mitered at the bottom, and there is a gap in there where you can get some air ventilation. So I use screws, and what I do when I put the roof on is I get a pencil, and always put your short side on first. And I just line it up like this. And then I mark where I want my holes to be. So then I take this, and it lays flat on the top. And I do, the short side is 1 inch and 3 inch. That's where I drill my holes. And on the long side, it's 1.5 and 3.5. So it's symmetrical, and it lines up and it looks nice. So then you just screw this on. You make sure it's flush at the front and the back. And there you go. Now another thing I do too is I put predator guards. Where are my predator guards? A metal predator guard, so that the, oh here they are, just hang on. By these things. And I put them on there. Now these are expensive, they're almost $5 each, so what I started doing was I bought one of these drill bits, but it's for metal, and I just use the lids off cans. It's much cheaper, and it works perfectly. The squirrels can't chew through it. And another thing you can use is just drill out a wooden one, and just put it on. Get a bigger piece of wood, something along the sides of your bottom, drill your 1.5 inch hole in it, and just stick it there. You just have to make sure that it's the right size, that it'll fit out underneath your roof like that. And don't worry if it's not lined up perfectly, it's a little off, it's not quite square, the birds don't care. And if you want to paint it, fine, or stain it, just make sure it's water soluble, and you're good to go. So that's for the big kids. Have fun, send me your pictures. Shout out to Doug Galloway. Take care, bye-bye.